All right, so let's talk about diet and exercise strategies that work, but most importantly, these are the ones that we found that our clients loved. So it's a great topic.
I think it's one of the more valuable conversations that we could have for coaches and trainers because obviously if you can't get them to adhere to the diet or exercise, you're probably not going to get them any results. And this was something that this wasn't taught to me in any certification.
No.
So
nope.
That's why I think this is the most valuable, because you could be one of the most educated coaches and trainers that are listening to this and tout all the different studies and research and science that you've got from all your courses. But this was something that they didn't teach us, that you learned over time, helping so many people.
Yeah, you learn it from application and what really works and what sticks and what's sustainable. And so I think that, a lot of knowledge that we've acquired from certifications and from textbooks, it's great, but at the end of the day, what's really going to be effective and stick with your clients?
So you said it perfectly, because I think when trainers and coaches, especially newer ones, when they think of something that works, like if I was to ask a relatively new trainer, what's a diet strategy that works? Or if I were to ask them, what does it mean when I say this diet works? They'll say, oh, it produces results. That's half the equation. That's not the full thing. There's lots of ways to, for example, lose weight, but only some of them are going to maintain that weight loss.
Yep.
Something doesn't work if it didn't work forever. Okay, so it's like when a client would hire me and they'd say, oh, I'm going to do this diet that I did a long time ago, or this workout program I did a long time ago. And I'll say, well, why? And they say, well, it worked. And I'll say, well, no, it didn't, because you're not doing it anymore. You gained the weight back. You fell out of shape. It didn't work. It produced a result, but the result didn't stick. Mm-hmm. So the context that we have to paint here, I think, is really important. And this is what you end up figuring out through experience. You end up figuring out, well, number one, the most important thing is, will they do it? Nothing works. Nothing works. The best advice doesn't work if your client doesn't do it.
Yep.
It literally doesn't matter if they don't do it. So you always have to ask yourself, will they actually do it? That's the most important thing that goes into this.
We talk a lot about this on the exercise portion, but this is included in the diet portion also, which is meeting your clients where they're currently at too.
Mm-hmm.
And a big mistake I think I used to make was you get a client in, you do your assessment, I take in consideration their activity level, their experience, their age, their weight, their body fat percentage, where they want to go, and then put in this formula and outspits, this is your calories, this is your macros. And then from there, okay, here are all the foods. And then it's like, eat this.
Gosh, same thing. Yeah.
And it's so far from where they're currently at that even if they have the discipline for a period of time to eat like that, to see the results, and let's say they even see a little bit of results, you actually haven't had real success yet. You're not having success with your clients until you not only get them to their results, but you teach them how to sustain those results and change their lifestyle. And so I think there was a bit of this false reality when I first started, because I could say, oh yeah, I got clients to lose weight, or I got the results. Fast forward when I'd run into them years later and they had put all the weight back on. It's like, oh, did I really help them then? I just wrote them a meal plan. They followed for 6 months, but then they ended up putting it back on. And so understanding that, okay, where are they currently at, and meeting them there and then slowly stepping them in the right direction.
Yes. And so, will they do it? The second thing to consider is the thing that I'm going to ask them to do, does it have a large payoff, or is there a great return? Like, what step can I take with the client that they'll do that simultaneously gives them a big result? In other words, is there one step I can have someone take that will have the result of 5 other steps? Because it's easier to do one thing than it is to do 5 or 6 other things. So that's the other thing you have to consider. It's like, okay, I'm working with this person. Remember, trainers, you're not talking to a fitness fanatic. You're not talking to somebody who fell in love with fitness like you did. Mm-hmm. This person is trying to improve the quality of their life by using fitness, but it isn't their life like
with
it is for you.
The least effort.
Because
that's what they want.
That's right, because it's not their life. They don't want to do this all the time. You can make it as enjoyable as possible. They'll never love it like you do. So can I give them something that they'll do that will also have a large payoff? And then finally, is it realistic forever? Is this sustainable? Because it could give you good results and they could do it, but is it going to stick are they going to be able to do this for the rest of their life? Like a good example would be like a no carb diet. okay? Cutting carbs out completely. A lot of people can do it right out the gates. Why? Because it's simple. Cut carbs, done. Okay, I know what that looks like. Does it have a large payoff? Yeah, sure. You cut carbs, you're probably going to substantially lower your calories, so you'll see weight loss. This was a big deal in the late 90s, early 2000s. Low carb, no carb diets were very popular. But was it realistic and sustainable? No. The adherence rate on those diets wasn't really much better than any other diet. And so what happened with low carb keto diets, they're still a fad. It's still a thing that people will try and fall out of. So you have to ask yourself those three things. Yeah. Will they do it? Does it have a large payoff? And is it realistically sustainable forever? So along those lines, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then I also think that there's levels too, right? So there's like, yes. you take that in consideration, then you go, I'm going to start them at the lowest levels that's easiest for them to accomplish. Yep. And then I'm going to build on that.
Yes.
Versus, I know I've got all these things I could give them right now and tell them they should do for their diet, but it's like, I'm going to start with the like you said, the biggest bang for your buck that I know that they could adhere to. And then once we do that, then we're going to stack, and then we're going to stack, and then we're going to stack.
That's right. Yeah. Imagine someone teaching you how to build a house and you couldn't write anything down. And they said, okay, here's what you're going to do. And then they give you every step all at once. You forgot the first step by the time you got the fifth step, and now you're screwed. But what if they said, you go do step 1 first, then come back and see me? Yeah. Go do step 2 back, and then come back and see me. So in other words, what we're looking at is the first step should be the thing that's easiest to do. It should have the largest payoff, and it should be the most sustainable. The second step is a little bit worse than the first one in terms of, will they do it? Does it have payoff? And is it sustainable? And the third step and fourth step. So in other words, let's start with the biggest thing that they probably will do, or at least that we've experienced that people can do that is sustainable, that will also give them this large payoff where they feel like they're putting minimal effort. So it's levels, like you said, Adam. Now, of course, when it comes to diet, things can get very individual. We're doing a general, show here for most people. So we're going to talk about general steps that have the biggest payoff that clients absolutely love, that we got lots of positive feedback with. So level 1 would be this. And this, for me, what I'm about to say here, was such a revelation when I was a trainer. It was like, it's one of those things when you do it and the payoff is so big and the clients get such great results, and then people can, stick to it, where you just you want to kick yourself and go, oh, why didn't I? Yeah. I wish I knew this before. It's like one of those moments in life when you do something and you're just like, oh, if I could go back in time. And it was this right here. Just tell your clients to avoid heavily processed foods. That's it. Yeah. That's level 1. Now, why will they do this? Why will a lot of clients do this? Because it's an easy black and white step. Mm-hmm. What's heavily processed food?
Very simple.
Yeah. What's heavily processed food, Sal? Things that come in boxes and wrappers and things that are packaged. So just stay away from that kind of stuff.
We used to say eat, on the outside of the grocery store instead of the inside. But yeah, there's really simple ways of approaching, this topic. And the thing about it is, it sounds restrictive, but really it's freedom in that we're not talking about calories. We're not talking about confinement in terms of them going out to actually eat. They can eat as much as they want at this point, but it has to be within these walls.
Yeah, they're not weighing yet. They're not measuring anything yet. They're not having to track. Yeah, they're not doing any of that yet. It's just literally just stay away from heavily processed foods, eat whole foods. And what I love about that too is that, because you're going to get this, right? So for the trainer, your client's going to say, well, what else? Or what else? Just do that. That's it. Yep. Just do that, and I promise we're going to start to see change in the right direction, and then we're going to build on that.
Yes.
And that's the key to this, is not resist the temptation to give them all the other steps. Like back to your analogy with the building the house, like resist your temptation to talk about the electrical work and all the plumbing and the framing and all this stuff. It's just like, stick to the foundation. Yeah. Let's lay a good foundation, and then you build that, then come back to me, and then we're going to talk about the next thing.
Most of the time, it's the hardest for the trainer to adhere to this.
Yeah, that's why I said that, because the trainer is going to, the client they'll go, well, wait, that's it? What about this? And they're going to start asking, well, what about this? And what about that? Don't worry about that. And you have to be confident in saying that. And this is what I lacked in my early years, was the confidence to know how well this worked.
Yes.
Hopefully you get that from us and all of our experience of telling you, listen, just trust me, say this to them, let them go do that.
Shut up.
and then you'll start to see results, and then we'll build a level
Now,
two.
what Adam's saying, I want people to understand this, is so important because you're going to have to sell this to your client because it sounds like nothing. It sounds so simple. This is what the conversation sounds like. Avoid heavily processed foods and eat as much as you want. And people are going to look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean eat as much? First of all, they'll say, what is heavily processed foods? Foods that come in boxes and wrappers and packages. So just avoid that. Don't eat that. But then otherwise eat as much as you want. And they're going to be like, huh?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like eat until I'm full?
anything?
You don't want me to cut? You don't want me to eat less? What about carbs? What about fat?
Yeah.
Can I eat steak? What about potatoes? I heard potatoes are bad. Fruit? Should I not eat fruit? No. All that's fine. Eat as much as you want. Just don't eat heavily processed foods. They're not going to believe you. So now I'm going to teach you how to sell it. Okay. Because you're going to have to sell it to your clients. Because when I first did this, I thought that clients would just be excited, but they looked at me like I was lying.
I remember the first,
And I had to sell it to
first
them.
time I ever said it was a guy who had to lose like 80 to 100 pounds, and he looked back at me and he laughed at me. He says, Adam, how do you think I got here?
Yeah.
How do you think I got here? Was eating whatever the hell I want. Like, it's not exactly that.
You got to give me boundaries.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Just eat. That's it. This is the only boundary is not processed foods, and just watch what happens. I promise you.
Yep. So, okay. So why does this work so well? Because it automatically controls calories. The data on this now is extremely clear. And I'm going to say this, back in the day when I was telling people about this, we didn't have studies. So back when I was saying this, what I knew was the effects of hyperpalatable processed foods based off of like food scientists and my own experience. But I didn't have data. So that for me, when I first said this, I was like, okay, eat until you're full. Let's see what happens. Here's what happened. 10 to 15 pound weight loss. Consistent. It would be like a 10 to 15 pound weight loss over 2 or 3 months for everybody right out the gates, which most people, here's why your clients love it so much. They don't understand how it's working and they think they're eating a lot. They all would come back and be like, I'm eating like big dinner. Like my wife made potatoes. We had steak. For lunch, I had rice and chicken, and I had chicken thighs. You said I don't have to eat breasts. I went for it, and then I had some fruit because I was still hungry. I don't understand how this is working. I'm losing weight, and it feels like it's just happening on its own. Well, here's what's happening. You're eating less calories. The data on this now is very clear. This result for the average person who eats mostly heavily processed foods, which is most Americans, when they do this, their calories will come down by about 500 calories, 500 to 600 calories.
Which, by the way, the irony of that is that's about what we were taught to cut your clients.
Yeah, without having to tell them to.
Right. When you used to figure out, like I was saying, all the math on where their current calorie maintenance or balance is at, and then you would cut them by 500 calories. And so that was kind of the strategy. So you're doing this organically through not telling them to eat less, but by just eating these types of foods.
That's right. So, and the reason why you end up eating less calories is because heavily processed foods are engineered to make you overeat. They're very, very well engineered,
And
expertly
dense.
engineered to make you overeat. So simply avoiding them results in appropriate caloric intake, which typically results in about 10 to 15 pounds of body fat loss. That's how powerful this is. And a good example would be, I love this example. Chris Kresser gave it to us years ago on the podcast. So if you want to illustrate this for your client, say, okay, could you eat 4 or 5 plain boiled potatoes with no salt, no butter, just plain? Could you eat them all in a row, right out the gates? And the person will say, no, I'll gag. Okay, could you eat a family-sized bag of potato chips? And they would say, yes. And you say, well, that has the same amount of potatoes, except one of them is hyperpalatable. The other one is just whole natural food, plain. So that's what they do to you. They just make you overeat. So step 1, level 1, and I'm going to be straight up with you guys, okay, listening right now. Many of your clients will never have to go anywhere else. Many of your clients will go 10, 15 pound weight loss. Then when you combine exercise with this and muscle building with this, then the weight loss slows down after about 10, 15 pounds.
Compounding effect.
But it continues to happen over time. And what it feels like for the client is, I'm just eating as much as I want. I'm kind of living my life. Like, this is pretty amazing. Okay, let's go to level 2 though. So I would not go to level 2 until level 1 is accomplished and consistent and not a problem. So there's no reason to go to level 2 until level 1 is not a problem. Once level 1 is not a problem, by the way, what's your coaching look like for level 1? Your coaching is going to look like them saying, oh, I had the chips, or hey, I had this, no problem. Let's stick to whole natural foods. Let's think of some whole, natural alternatives. And what did your food look like this week? So there's still some coaching that's involved, just minimal compared to other diet strategies. Level 2 is you have them now hit their target body weight in grams of protein and to eat it first. So that's level 2. Now, why are we adding this level 2, or what does this accomplish? They bump their protein intake significantly. They eat it first. Protein has a satiety effect on top of whole natural foods, so their calories come down even lower typically. But the protein also results in more muscle and less body fat, even when calories are controlled. So 2 same calorie diets, same exact person in both scenarios. High protein, lower protein. Higher protein results in more fat loss and more muscle gain. You eat it first, it controls blood sugar better, and it provides more satiety. So that's level 2. So now it's like, hey, you know how you're eating whole natural foods? You've been doing that for 3 months? Yes. Here's what I want you to do. Let's take your target body weight, eating grams of protein, eat it first in your meal, and that's level 2. Yeah. That will result
high octane version.
That'll result in additional probably 5 pounds of body fat loss with some muscle gain.
And also, don't overcomplicate this, because the questions you're gonna get back. Well, can I eat steak? Can I eat pork? They're going to start asking all kinds of questions about what kinds of protein sources can they have, and can they have tri-tip, and can they have all these? Yes. The answer is yes, you can have those things so long as we hit those grams in protein. Right? Now, what I know as a trainer is that if I eat all from really high fat foods, it's hard to get to the protein intake, especially if you're eating them first and you're doing that. So knowing that, you might have to, then this is where the coaching comes, right? So it's like, that's just the advice. What will probably happen over the next couple of weeks is struggling to hit their protein intake.
I was just going to say.
Oh, wow, that's harder, because this is the most common thing that happens here, right?
Simple, but not easy.
Yeah, the next challenge with this client at level 2 for me was, oh my God, I just can't. I can't eat that much. I can't eat that much. That's so much food. And so then we start diving into what choices are we eating? And this is where us going to like leaner cuts tend to help just with digestion, and then being able to eat more. And it's not because you can't have the tri-tip, it's just that you notice that, oh wow, when you have these higher fat protein meals, they tend to fill you up more, and then it makes it harder for you to hit your
different strategies. Sometimes you have to break it up, right? You can't get it that all in one meal, or a lot of times like your dinner was the heavy portion of that. But when you're really trying to seek a higher amount of protein, it's difficult when it's all there at once. So, portioning it out throughout the day, a lot of times.
This is also where we might introduce protein shakes. If I have to right here, this might be a place where if a client is just absolutely struggling with getting to their protein through whole natural foods, this is the one exception that we might make, or this is how I would teach them, like, this is how you use a protein shake. It's not, protein shakes are healthy for you. I want you always targeting healthy foods. And if we don't, that's still the goal. But if we're now at level 2 and we can't hit protein intake because you just can't eat enough, then this is where we might use it.
Okay, so I'm just going to back up, because I want you trainers to really understand the power of what we're saying. Here you have a client who wants to lose weight. Most of your clients are going to want to lose weight. That's the majority of your clients. They want to lose weight, and you're coaching them because they can't eat enough. So think about that for a second. This is a person who's struggled with weight for a long time. They need to lose body fat. It's very difficult. And now they're talking with you and saying, I can't eat as much protein as you're telling me. Talk about a mental flip, but also just how much healthier of a mentality they're going to develop, because they've probably dealt with trying to restrict their whole life. They've probably dealt with struggling and binging, and now they're like, oh, I'm full.
Punish themselves for not hitting it.
That's right. So the 2 coaching strategies or tips I have for this are, 1, you're going to have to suddenly learn how to talk to people about eating more food, especially people that want to lose weight. And 2, you brought this up about breaking up the protein. You're going to learn how to coach people on how to get the protein in the morning, in the afternoon, and also the evening. Because if they don't get a high protein breakfast, they're typically screwed. And most people's breakfasts are like 12 grams of protein at best. So you're going to have to really coach them on that process. But that's level 2. And I'm going to stop right here, because I'm going to say, you do level 1 and level 2, most of your clients will be happy. That's straight up. Most of your clients are going to be happy if they do these 2 things consistently. Most people are not trying to get shredded. Most guys are trying to get around 15, 16% body fat. Women, somewhere in the low 20s. This will get them there through a nice, long, consistent process.
Especially
all the heavy lifting.
Especially if they learn to do it all through whole foods and they don't even need shakes.
That's right.
If you're eating all whole foods and hitting your protein intake, you're going to be solid.
Most clients, the majority of my clients, this is kind of where we were at. And this gave them all the results. And it was a nice, steady, consistent progress that was sustainable. But let's say this person does this well. They do the first one well, next level. Here's level 3. Sounds silly, but it makes a big difference. And sometimes you can combine level 3 with level 2, but I like to do things step at a time. And that is to aim for a half a gallon or a gallon of water a day. This one sounds silly. It's like, what? What's the magic of doing this? Now, you've probably heard, and they've probably heard, that thirst, your thirst signal, make sure that you're not dehydrated. So why do I need to drink more water? Well, there's optimal, and then there's just you're not dehydrated. We're aiming for optimal. And when I have clients drink a half a gallon to a gallon of water a day, they all have reduced inflammation. They all feel better. They all have better digestion. And then number 3, they
reduces their cravings.
They just don't drink other calories. And so what I would have my clients do is measure their water to learn how to do this. And this took most clients about 3 to 4 weeks to get used to. Once they got used to it, they noticed when it was less. Then they're like, oh my God, I feel so much better. My skin looks better. This is amazing. And again, this is a silly one because it's water. I'm not telling them to take any supplement or anything crazy. But this one actually makes the bodybuilder bros, they knew what they were talking about.
They were onto something. I mean, it totally increases energy. It's one of those things you don't realize a lot of times joint pain is associated and related to this. So to not have any kind of pain and restriction and have more energy on top of that is, it's a lot more inviting to now go be more active and get after your workout and your performance.
It also, if you've checked level 1 and level 2, it also is keeping your mouth busy on something that's not detrimental. Yeah. So why I like this right here at level 3 is that level 1 and level 2, if you figure this out where you get your clients to do this consistently and they get over the hurdle of, oh my God, this is a lot of foods, a lot of protein, and then they start to hit it. By this time, we've probably been going for a couple months now and we're building muscle.
Yeah.
And we're starting to speed our metabolism up. And now maybe the hunger is starting to kick in and the appetite is starting to kick up a little bit. And so I love having this client now go, okay, hey, when you're not eating those meals that we're talking about, then be drinking that water. And it just keeps them busy, focusing on something that's healthy, that's good for them, that has all the benefits that you guys talked about, and not eating something else. I just found, and this is the part of the bodybuilding, man, drinking water during cutting for a show was such a huge hack. I mean, I go through 3 gallons in a day is what I'd get up to in my cuts. And it was just because if I wasn't, I was thinking about food. So it was just like, okay, I'm thinking about this water, drinking this water all day long. So it was like a huge hack into that. And again, if you just did level 1 and level 2, most people are going to get incredible results just from that alone. And so if you make it to here, this is just adding on top of that.
Now, level 4, this is where, and by the way, keep them at those earlier levels until they're consistent. And they will see results over time. Fight the urge to get greedy, okay? Because here's what's going to happen. The initial 10, 15 pound weight loss happens relatively quickly. Then things start to slow down, but body composition changes are still happening. Stay consistent, stay consistent, stay consistent. Fight the urge to go hard all the way out the gates. Because level 4, for the average person, typically doesn't have to happen until much later. And this is tracking. Now, this tends to be level 1 for most trainers, which is tracking. And I'm going to tell you this, unless you're training competitors, unless you're training people who really understand diet, want to take it to the next level, this should not be level 1. Telling the average person right out the gate, start tracking, doing all this stuff. Now, that's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but this is a much harder first step than what I said earlier, which was just avoid those heavily processed foods, eat as much as you want. But if you get to level 4, now we can play the track and cut and see where your calories are and start playing with that. And these are the clients that are like, this is the guy who's like, he lost 20 pounds with me. We're sitting at about 16% body fat. He's feeling good. He's like, hey, I want to get a 6-pack. All right. Well, now we got to track. It's not going to happen until we track.
I just love teaching the trainer to get as far as you can without this. And then this is your way of getting granular. We've now been training for 3, 4, 5 months down the road. We've seen great results. Now results have started to slow down. Now clients asking questions. Oh, what's going on? We've been say, okay, We've been great on level 1, level 2, level 3 for a while now. Progress is starting to slow maybe. Let's get a little granular. Let me dive into the diet. Let's track for the next couple of weeks and let me see if I can make some tweaks to the diet. That's how I want to go as far as I can with this client without ever having to make them track. Because when you talk about sustainability, that's probably one of the least sustainable things. I don't know anybody, including fitness fanatics like ourselves, okay, who want to track all the time. No. I don't want to track all the time. Do not think that your client wants to. Now, you can make the argument it's education and they got to learn it, but yes, you can. But they can also learn a ton and get really far with those first 3 levels before they get more granular.
By the way, I want to communicate something real important. What you'll notice, okay, with these strategies, we're teaching you guys how to really do this effectively long-term. This is a long-term mentality from a trainer. What you don't want to do is take a client who says, I'm going to only hire you for 30 days. And then what you're thinking is, and I'm going to show them best results in 30 days. I should have them track right out the gates. Now, will you get the fastest results by tracking right out the gates? Yes. Will you get the most sustainable? No. So you have to think long-term if you want to be a career trainer. If you want to build a good career as a trainer, think long-term, even when your client thinks short-term. Because yes, I could give someone way faster results if I track right out the gates, give them a meal plan, and force them to follow it. That's true. But they're not going to get long-term results. So as a trainer, when I would get clients, when I got good, even if they hired me for just 60 days or they hired me just for 30 days, because sometimes people will do that and say, oh, I'm only going to buy 15 sessions because I want to see if this is good for me. I don't think to myself, I'm only going to see you for 15 sessions. I think to myself, I'm going to train you for 15 sessions. You're going to keep working with me because I'm going to show you how good I am. And I'm thinking long-term, like you're going to be with me for the next couple years. So that's why we're moving in these steps in this way. All right, let's get to exercise. Okay, so exercise is, again, this is the other side of the coin. This is the other part of the equation. And with exercise, these are levels as well. Now, level 1 and level 2 are probably going to mix with you if you're an in-person trainer because you're actually going to train people. But if you were just advising someone or you're just working with someone online and you're only giving them one piece of exercise advice, and this is the average person who doesn't work out, there is no structured exercise, they're sedentary, level 1 is just walk after meals. And again, remember the context here. Is it something that they'll do? Is there going to be a big payoff? And is it sustainable long-term? Walking for 10 minutes after meals has a huge payoff, both for health. It's good for insulin resistance. It does help with fat loss. It helps with digestion. It builds good habits. Super easy to do, and it's done every single day, frequently, which turns it into a habit very quickly. This is one of the easiest first steps anybody could ever take.
As a paying client, I'm probably doing level 1 and level 2 together.
Yes.
But I love this as level 1 and talking about this because this is actually the level 1 of nutrition and level 1 of exercise is what I tell family and clients when people ask me advice. Mm-hmm. I normally tell them, just go do this first.
Yes.
Just start walking 3-4 times a day or 3-4 times a week and avoid heavily processed foods, come back and see me. Because for me, what I'm looking for, if it's family or friends, is I'm looking for if they can't commit to that, they're not ready for all the other things that I could potentially teach them. And that right there will actually get a lot of people really far. If you are looking to lose 30 or 40 pounds and you've never cut out processed foods and you've never made walking a routine, oh my God, like I'll show you great results just from that. And then guess what? I'm going to put it into hyperdrive when I show you strength training. Now, if you're a paying client, right, you're paying for my service.
Strength training is there.
Strength training is there because that's part of what you're paying for. You're paying for that expertise in biomechanics and teaching you how to program correctly. And so I'm going to include level 1 and level 2 together.
Well, there's a lot of benefit too to attaching it to after meals as well because of the habit stacking as they've talked about. But really, it's like you're not trying to now create an opportunity throughout the day that you're going to have to kind of punch it in at a time where you're normally doing something else. Like you're always going to be eating. This is just something that you're consistently going to be doing to allow for that time. A lot of times you allow for an extra amount of time anyways for these meals, these lunch breaks or dinner or time set aside for meals. So now to just attach this habit of going for a walk immediately after that, it helps. There's so many benefits too with that insulin sensitivity, with digestion, and it's just kind of a snowball effect.
And it's easy. It requires no coaching or training. Like you said, Adam, again, if you're an online coach, this is a good first step because it doesn't require you showing them anything. They know how to walk, just walk after meals. If people did step level 1 with diet, no processed foods, and just walked, if everybody in Western society did this right now, we would solve a large portion of the health and obesity epidemic.
Huge.
Just from those two silly things right there. But you're right, Adam. Level 2, if you're training people in person, this is built in. And
you're paying for that.
This is strength training.
Yeah.
Strength training is, when you're talking about bang for your buck, there is no form of exercise on a time-for-time basis that will give you more than strength training when it comes to fat loss, when it comes to mobility, of course, strength, when it comes to hormone effects, when it comes to just bang for your buck, aesthetic effects, strength training. All right, how much strength training are we talking? 1 to 2 days a week for the average person. 1 to 2 days a week. Most people 2 days a week consistently will take them very, very far. There's a lot you can progress in 2 days a week because people think, what do you mean 2 days a week? That's nothing. People get stronger. So they're adding weight, they're progressing. Exercises change, the intensity changes. There's so many things I can do with 2 days a week. I trained clients for 10 years, 2 days a week with strength training, and they would do some stuff on their own on the side, but I never had to progress them beyond that. So 1 to 2 days a week, or here's the other option, 1 or 2 exercises a day, 15 minutes a day of strength training, like our MAPS 15 program. That's another approach, which equals to about the same volume. The value of that is it's easy. Everybody can take 15 minutes a day. It also, in my opinion, tends to turn into a habit.
Really ramping up momentum by doing that as well.
It turns into a habit very quickly. Because every day doing
strength training 1 to 2 times a week in combination with someone walking after meals is a dramatic shift for most people.
Yes.
So, and this, again, the goal is always to do as little as possible to elicit the most change. This is going to elicit a ton of change in 99% of anybody who would ever potentially hire you. And so don't make the mistake of just because they're telling you they want more or they have time for more or give me more for you to add more to their plate right now. This simply doing level 1, level 2, both on the nutrition and the exercise portion is going to move the needle a lot.
But I got to say this too, like if you do what we're saying and you do it right and you coach it right, what you're going to hear from clients is going to be, as you become successful, as you build your career, is going to be your favorite phrase you'll ever hear from any of your clients. When I would hear this, I would get like this warm, fuzzy feeling. And it was this: Sal, I'm getting leaner, I'm getting stronger, my body's changing, and I barely feel like I'm doing anything.
Feels like I'm doing nothing.
Feels like I'm doing nothing. I love hearing that. And that and when I got good, I used to hear that all the time. You want to hear that. What you don't want to hear is from your clients who are saying, I feel like I'm doing everything. I'm trying so hard. I don't understand. I'm barely seeing any progress. What's going on? That's the worst thing you could possibly hear as a trainer. What you want to hear is, I don't know how this is happening. My body seems to be getting in shape. Yeah. I don't feel like I'm doing anything.
Like butter.
That's what'll happen when you follow these steps and you do them consistently. So level 2 strength training, 1 to 2 days a week. That's it. Proper, appropriate strength training. This is where your expertise really comes into play. Level 3, you can start to add, and this is, of course, level 3 is when everything else is consistent. By the way, I'm going to tell you right now, I waited for the next levels for my client to ask me. So what would typically happen is we'd strength train 2 days a week, we'd do all the other stuff. Everything's going great, everything's phenomenal, getting great results. 3-4 months into it, they'd come to me and they'd look at me and say, hey, Sal, is there anything else I can do? I'm really enjoying this. Then I would include daily mobility. Daily mobility is great for movement, it's good for health, and I would give them a 10-minute, 15-minute mobility routine that they could do every morning. This was the third level for me that I would.
Well, this is going to accelerate their strength training. It's going to create more movement, more steps, more calorie burn. And so the benefits of this is incredible. And then also, most of us are going to be training middle-aged people with chronic pain and joint issues. And so I think attaching that to this at this point, but just like you, I'm waiting until this client is already seeing tons of results. They're kind of starting to beg for more from you. And then now it's like, okay, we can start to move in this direction and see some serious benefit from that.
Totally. Lastly, I would add structured cardio. Structured cardio is like 30 minutes on a something, treadmill, bike, whatever. Now, sometimes people like doing this, and this is what they enjoy, or they want endurance. Maybe they're more performance-based, in which case we would add this sooner. But for the average person, they want to just feel better, lose weight, be more fit. I would add this later on. I would wait because the strength training, the walking after meals, the strength training, the mobility, those give you such great results. I wouldn't have to add the cardio until later. And sometimes I'd never add this at all. If they were just happy, no reason
just add steps. Yeah.
I saved this until, here's the thing. If we've made it to level 4, you've been training this person for months. Okay. You shouldn't be at level 4 in the first week or the first couple of weeks, right? So if you've made it to level 4, you've been training this person for months. I like to save this. What's inevitable when you've been coaching or training someone for a period of time, the reunion comes up, the wedding comes up, the bikini, I'm going to be out on the boat comes up. Something's going to come up in that, first 6 months to a year I'm training this client, and they're going to come to you and be like, Adam, next month I got this trip. Beautiful. Yep. We're going to add some structured cardio. And that's I wait till that. I feel like that inevitably happens with every client. There will become an event that will happen during the time that I'm coaching them where they're going to really want to look a little bit better or lean out a little bit faster.
And then you throw it in.
And then I throw it in. And what's beautiful is that I saved it to that point. So when we do it, they see great results.
Right. So the key here to be really effective, you guys, is to take everything that we're saying here and center your coaching around the stuff that we're saying. Center around all this stuff. Keep it simple. I'm going to say this also, by the way, we're making it as easy as possible. That does not mean it's easy. Your coaching is still extremely important, because even the stuff we said, as effective as it is, as good as it is, as we found it, their clients are still going to require your coaching. Focus on this. Get good at coaching these things right here. Your success rates will go through the roof. So that's the second part of the series. The third part coming up is how to do an assessment the right way and use that assessment to really communicate your value. By the way, we have a webinar that's going to be coming up on June 3rd. You can go to trainerwebinar.com. On that, I'm going to teach you how to sell training. I'm going to teach you how to close the deal. So again, go to trainerwebinar.com. All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. All right, so this is part 3. We're going to talk about assessments, but to be more specific, assessments that sell training. And this is a very important topic. In fact, this is an area that I saw trainers screw up all the time. And fixing this made a huge difference with the trainers that work for me.
Adam brought this up earlier off mic, but it really what I saw was nobody really using assessments.
Yes.
Which was